Well, EA, you done f***ed it up again.
Well, I'm glad we can agree on something, Joe. So typically I'm not one for response videos, but I felt like it was necessary in this case. You see, Angry Joe chose to use my video as partial inspiration for his. He even included the thumbnail of my video in his, and he showed my video in his watch history to prove his investigation into the other side of the argument, while at the same time drastically distorting, misrepresenting, and oversimplifying the viewpoint that I presented regarding the controversy surrounding Battlefield 5 addressed in that particular video. The question remains to be answered, though. Did he do this intentionally to make the other side look stupid, or to invalidate their argument? Or did he do this out of ignorance himself and he's just not well versed on what people actually are thinking on the other side? Before we plunge into this video, I just want to say a quick thank you to everybody on YouTube, Twitter, and in my Discord server who brought my attention to Joe's video. I'm not subscribed to him, I don't follow him on social media, so I would have never found this without you, so I do appreciate it. Alright, so with all this intro stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at Joe's like to dislike ratio, and oh my god, it is not looking too good for our friend Joe over here. He is getting absolutely killed in the like to dislike ratio. I'm surprised he hasn't started deleting comments either, because just reading the comments, which I would suggest you do, I'm not going to do it here, but go ahead and read the comments. Like, he's getting absolutely butchered by his own subscribers. Almost every single one of the top comments is something negative about Battlefield 5 or how he's missing the point. So there's something definitely going on here. His own subs are turning against him, it seems like, in this particular viewpoint. So let's go ahead and take a look at what Joe has to say.
Well, EA, you done f***ed it up again with my favorite franchise this time, which you've done before with Battlefield Hardline, but now it's the mainline Battlefield series.
Okay, so Battlefield is your favorite series. Not sure if that means EA series or game series in general, but what this does show is some form of bias on your part in talking about this franchise. Now, I'm not necessarily faulting you for that. Everyone has their favorites, be it a game, movie, food, YouTube channel. That's not something I'm going to knock you for. However, it is important because it means you are less likely to view something through an objective lens. That's just human nature, and it happens to everyone, including myself. However, you could fall prone to confirmation bias, which happens when you interpret things to fit your preconceived notions, something that fans of anything sometimes do. It's just something to keep in mind when you're trying to objectively look at a situation.
News stories are coming out all over the place right now. Analysts report Battlefield 5's pre-order sales are weak. They are weak. Battlefield 5's so far lower, below Black Ops 4, Red Dead Redemption 2. This outlet here. Pre-orders are reportedly very weak. Well, I think one angry gamer gets it wrong here. They never said very weak. You're throwing that word in there, and that's not correct. They said that it's just lower. So what is weak? Is weak 100 million less? Is it 500? How much dollars is it less? 100 million dollars less? 50 million dollars less? We don't really know, but we do know that the pre-order sales are lower in comparison to Call of Duty and to Red Dead Redemption's 2.
Very good, you're correct. The game is being slaughtered as of right now in pre-orders by comparison. As I showed in my video on this topic, Battlefield 5 Standard Edition was the 53rd best-selling game on PS4 from GameStop, and nowhere to be seen on Amazon's bestsellers for gaming. By comparison, both Red Dead Redemption 2 and Black Ops 4 occupied several spots each on Amazon's bestsellers list and are in the top 10 on GameStop for both the PS4 and Xbox One. Not a good sign whatsoever for a multi-billion-dollar franchise that releases consistently every other year.
Now, why is this happening? Well, if you listen to YouTube and certain channels on YouTube, I watched 4 videos in a row just now because, I care about the Battlefield 5 franchise, and it sucks to watch this video because they're celebrating. They are celebrating the destruction and the lower sales of the Battlefield 5 franchise due to those goddamn liberals and those damn social warriors putting women in Battlefield. The reason why to them that Battlefield 5 is having lower
Oh, would you look at that? There's my thumbnail.
the reason why to them that Battlefield 5 is having lower pre-orders is because there are women on the box, there are women featured prominently in the trailers, and there are women in multiplayer.
Come on, Joe. Me and you both know you're better than this. You know exactly what's going on with the situation. Someone as in tune as you are with the gaming industry should know what is actually happening at this point. Now I understand why you're getting all these dislikes. What you're doing here can only be described as a rash oversimplification out of contempt. Do you honestly think that the only problem that people are upset over is the women in the game? No, of course you don't. If you watched even the first 3 minutes of my video, you would understand perfectly the backlash surrounding Battlefield 5. The decision to add women or the developer's personal private political leanings has nothing to do with this whatsoever. It is solely based on the flat-out disrespectful and politically charged responses that both DICE and EA on several occasions directed at their fans and customers for voicing their legitimate criticisms with the game they are expected to go out and spend $60 on. Claiming that this is all about women is the typical technique used by those trying to defend this game in an attempt to paint those who disapprove as sexist, as if that insult means anything in 2018 anymore. You are twisting this entire situation to fit your viewpoint in an attempt to paint the opposition as ignorant or bigoted. Many have tried and failed before you, and you are no different. This argument is by far the weakest against people like me that I have ever seen, and it doesn't work. It only emboldens people even more.
And they're not going to spend a goddamn dime of their $60 on women being in World War II because that insults their great-grandfather who fought in World War II. No women in World War II, in my fictional World War II. Ha 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 to EA. Victory for Not My Battlefield, hashtag MAGA, Red Hats. Victory against social justice warriors.
Well, you are damn right about something. I will not be giving DICE and EA so much as a single penny to play Battlefield 5 whatsoever. At this point, though, you let your biases show even more. Not only do you continue to downplay this controversy at any given opportunity, in addition to that, you now bring identity politics into the mix. What exactly does Make America Great Again have to do with Battlefield 5 including women? I didn't know that one of Trump's campaign promises was to keep women out of Swedish World War II shooters. I guess I missed the part where this disdain for Battlefield 5 was solely reliant on your support of Trump. Do you have any research to back that up and support this claim? Of course you don't. And yes, it is a victory against SJWs any time something that blatantly panders to them does not succeed financially. It shows companies the obvious fact that gamers have been trying to tell them for years. It does nothing for them in terms of sales. SJWs do not play or buy games. They try to change them in order to get the attention they so desperately crave, and that is it. Also, just pointing something out very briefly, if you go back to the picture of his watch history, you'll notice that at the bottom of the thumbnail there's this little red bar which shows you the progress of how much of each video you've watched. Now, I would hate to question Joe's integrity. I'll take his word that he watched all 4 of those videos, but I guess the quartering, mine, and downward thrust video were just so fantastic, informative, he found them so interesting, he had to go back and re-watch them partially just because he enjoyed it so much. I know my content is quality, and I can completely understand wanting to go back and get a second helping. So Joe, you're going to get the benefit of the doubt this time. Like I said, I would hate to question your integrity on this.
But is it really that? Is those segment of people who don't want women in there, who want a extremely historically accurate World War II experience in Battlefield 5, is that really what translates into the most lost revenue?
I mean, it must be completely unheard of that people want a World War II experience in a World War II game. If not, why call it a World War II game whatsoever? I want to direct attention to the comments he tries to use to demonstrate this hatred of women he claims that the people who don't like the game have. Quote, if you buy a game, you're giving ideas to EA for releasing more SJW titles in the future. I think that's a pretty damn fair claim. Supply and demand is how capitalism works. Companies sell products that consumers want to buy, not the other way around. Quote, now he can explain to his daughter why he has to sell the house and car. Obviously a joke. Joe, you should know better by now more than anyone that YouTube comments should not be taken literally. I'm waiting for the LBGT expansion. That's obviously another joke. EA never learns their lesson. Liberal company too dumb to understand what the consumers really want. Judging by the dislike ratio on the trailer and the corresponding low pre-order numbers, I think that's a pretty damn fair point. Aside from the liberal part, not really sure what EA's whole political stance is as a company on a whole level, but I do know most of their senior leadership is in fact of that more liberal mentality. Once again, Joe, what you're trying to do here is you're trying to put this label on the entire opposition that just so happens to disagree with you by using innocent and harmless in nature examples like a joke out of the comment section that you cherry-picked in order to further your own point. Everyone sees exactly what you're doing here, and it doesn't work whatsoever.
I don't know. Maybe. Let's look at it. So they say that the evidence is this: EA basically shit on the community, which they do all the time, and they deserve sometimes to get some backlash. They said, here's the backlash on women: accept it or don't buy the game. So they are laughing their asses off at these guys who said, if you don't like women in Battlefield 5, don't buy it. And now they are cheering the fact that there are lower pre-orders and that pre-orders are weak.
Well, would you look at that? Another point I agree with you on. Both DICE and EA did indeed shit on their community and most certainly deserve backlash. Your sad attempt to explain what caused the backlash, however, is laughable at best. EA's Patrick Soderlund did not just say accept it or don't buy the game. He called the community uneducated for daring to question his design choices in Battlefield 5. Last time I checked, insulting your customers is something people should be upset over and is something EA deserves to get backlash from. You also failed to mention Alan Kurtz, the design director at DICE's comments, where he claimed the moral high ground, saying he would be on the quote right side of history. Once again, Joe, you are downplaying the other side's viewpoint and making no effort whatsoever to understand where they might be coming from.
And then they also draw a parallel to Chief Design Officer Patrick Sutherland leaving the company. They're saying, well, the pre-orders have been weak, so that must be why this guy got let go. They didn't want him there anymore. In fact, he was the Chief Design Officer over 12 years. So I actually, here we can both agree on something. We can make this crossover that I'm glad this guy is fucking gone, okay? Because he was terrible. This is the guy that saw how much money was being made in Madden Ultimate Team and FIFA Ultimate Team, just over $800 million annually, yearly. And then he said, let's go to our other games. Let's go to Battlefield. Let's go to Star Wars Battlefront. Let's do Need for Speed, all of our games, and inject microtransactions into that shit too. No. And it blew up in his face when the Star Wars community said, fuck off. And the Star Wars community rallied and got Disney involved and really upset things. Now, this could be, him leaving could be blowback from that. And trust me, I've seen people on those 4 videos I watched like, oh, this guy's going broke. He's got to explain to his wife selling his house and car. That's actually not true. This guy made millions of dollars while he was there. And it may be that he's not leaving the company because of what you think he is leaving the company.
Yes, it is wonderful news that our good friend Patrick Soderlund is out, and I'm glad we can agree on that. Almost anything anti-consumer that's happened at EA in the past decade, you can thank Patrick Soderlund for. Goodbye and good riddance is my exact thoughts on that. But on that note, he was almost certainly fired. Coincidences like a chief executive resigning the day before week pre-order numbers for the company's biggest game of the year are announced just do not happen in the corporate world. The timing is everything in this situation. I find it interesting that you claim that all 4 of the videos you watched had some suggestion that he would have to sell his house and car because, he lost his job. I know for a fact, because I watched all 4 videos through, that only one of them even slightly hinted at that in a joking manner, and I know for a fact mine had no mention of it whatsoever. But who am I telling you that? I mean, you would know that if you went and watched the 4 videos like you said you did. I don't know, I'm just getting kind of a feeling here that maybe those progress bars in the watch history were a little bit more accurate than I initially thought.
If you do a little bit more research here, you'll see that the publisher really wanted him to stay. They gave him a $20 million bonus to this guy. Why? Well, back in June. That is so recent.
The thing that you're missing here is all this is saying is that the SEC required EA to announce this bonus. They don't say when he actually got it. My guess is a bonus like this of over $20 million probably had to be allocated well in advance by the board, probably even months before June. So he's had this bonus for a while, probably before Battlefield 5 was even announced, before they found out that the like to dislike ratio on the trailer was so bad, before he opened his big mouth and insulted fans and then told everyone not to buy the game, and it was most definitely before they found out that the pre-orders were weak. So I really don't think it has anything to do with him being fired. If anything, the board of EA is probably just that much more pissed because they just gave him this huge multi-million-dollar bonus, and then he causes their game to tank at the same time, making it even more likely that he was in fact fired.
They said they paid him a $20 million bonus partly for the purpose of supporting a longer-term retention of this guy. And he said, "No, peace out. This is I'm taking the money and I'm leaving." Is he going to go make more money somewhere else? That's a possibility. Nobody knows what's next for him or why exactly he left. But conservatives on YouTube will tell you that the reason why he left is because there is lower pre-orders because of the women in Battlefield 5, and because they said accept it or don't buy it, and people actually went out and didn't buy it. But is that the real reason?
Yes, I do think it's a huge reason behind why Battlefield 5 is not doing so well in the pre-order department. Once again, you bring identity politics into this labeling of all who don't support Battlefield 5 as conservatives. I'm not really sure how this correlates to this topic whatsoever. My political leanings are nowhere present on my YouTube channel. You are making the assumption that anyone against SJWs must be a Trump-loving conservative. I hate to break it to you, but most liberals as well despise the SJW plague that is infecting all forms of media and culture. This is not an issue that pertains to only one side of the spectrum. Most liberals do not agree with far leftist SJWs, just like most conservatives do not agree with far-right Nazis and white supremacists. You are categorizing people based on something so broad and just plain stupid. Also, you seem so focused on this bonus, basically saying, well, he received $20 million, so why would EA fire him right after? The answer is simple. His mistakes will cost EA possibly hundreds of millions, if not billions, in potential profits from Battlefield 5 when you consider the microtransaction losses as well. I hate to break it to you, but $20 million is something a multi-billion-dollar corporation like EA would use to wipe their ass with. They do not care. His actions could potentially cost them more than he could ever be worth to the company at this point. Let us not forget he was the one who came up with the system of microtransactions for Battlefront 2. Like I said in my video, which you would have heard if you actually watched it like you claimed to, this is his second big fuck-up in the past 12 months alone.
I mean, objectively, or is it closer to this? You're putting Battlefield 5 in between one of the biggest Call of Duties and the biggest video game release this year. From a little-known developer, a little-known game, from a small indie publisher called, Rockstar. I don't think many people buy their games. It's not like it's Grand Theft Auto 6, essentially. No, it couldn't be that. It couldn't be that, October is notoriously such a filled month that I call it Broketober, and I can't freaking possibly review every single freaking game in October, and then it's sandwiched in between two of the biggest releases, not to mention all the other games that come out around the same time. No, it couldn't be that.
Wow, Joe, it's like you didn't even listen to my video because I spent at least a good 3 to 4 minutes talking about exactly just that. Just like the controversy, the release timing is most likely going to play a big influence on the sales. But when you actually think about it, there are several reasons why it might not necessarily be the case in this situation. By all standards, Battlefield is a juggernaut of a franchise. And like I said earlier, it's on an every other year launch cycle that always falls in the month of October. Battlefield fans know exactly when the next game is going to release, so having Call of Duty or Red Dead Redemption release in the same month, it's not going to do that much in terms of the hardcore Battlefield fans. They're not just going to drop everything and say, yeah, fuck Battlefield, I'm going to go buy Call of Duty and Red Dead Redemption 2 instead. No, they know Battlefield 5 is coming. They're going to buy the game they enjoy. And I think you're giving gamers a lot less credit than they deserve. I guess you've never heard of something called budgeting or saving money. It's not like people could save up money during the summer months when games aren't necessarily releasing and then use that money in October and November when traditionally more big AAA game releases come out. This is nothing new. Gamers know that once these months roll around, they are going to be spending more money on the games they want versus the summer. Yes, Red Dead Redemption 2 is going to be the best-selling game this year and is arguably the biggest release of this generation. But you're also forgetting that Black Ops 4 is one of the most highly detested Call of Duty games with more controversy surrounding it than even Infinite Warfare in some cases. From the Black Ops Pass, the terrible beta, and the removal of the campaign, Black Ops 4 has a ton of negative press. That technically should cause some players to transition over to the more appealing game, which I'm guessing you think is Battlefield 5 if they want to buy a shooter this year.
It couldn't be that this Battlefield 5 is the most poorly marketed Battlefield I've ever seen in my history of following the Battlefield franchise. And you guys know how much I love Battlefield. It was awful. I mean, yeah, there was a 3-hour closed door, behind the door session for influencers, press, what do they call it? Game changers, outlets. It was fucking amazing. 3 hours of detailed information. They showed GIFs and animation breakdowns and I was like, please just release this to everybody. Instead, no, they did the shitty Trevor Noah presentation, which was fucking awful. It really didn't give you the details. It really didn't show off the game. It was more concerned about mimicking the Daily Show with Trevor Noah on there in like a news report program with awful transitions. In comparison, Call of Duty had a great show on stage, even though they're ripping out features. You know, and you would think so. You've got your EA is essentially pulling another Titanfall 2. Only this time they're fucking up one of their mainline franchises, Battlefield 5. They're jamming it in the middle of the biggest Call of Duty, right? And one of the biggest releases of the year. And this is why, in my opinion, pre-order sales are lower.
Joe, I completely agree with you. The marketing has been a complete disaster from the very first reveal trailer to the reveal event, which was boring, and we learned absolutely nothing other than how EA planned to sell microtransactions in the form of cosmetic items to customize your character. I don't think you're completely wrong in this sense. You are definitely correct in my mind. The problem is you still refuse to acknowledge any sort of impact that this backlash has had on the perception regarding this game. I don't think you understand how important the mind share and word of mouth is. I can personally guarantee you that I've gotten 5 of my friends to not want to buy this game. And that is a powerful tool. And that is something that is in play here. It's not just the 453,000 people who downvoted the video. It's everyone they tell. It's every video they make telling people to not buy the game. And that is part of the unofficial marketing, which is in response to EA's PR failure on several occasions to rein in their leadership at both EA and DICE and hold them back from insulting their fan base. That is the reality of this situation. Yes, the official marketing is trash. They have done a terrible job. There's no promotion anywhere. The trailers, for the most part, have been terrible, but also the unofficial marketing has been allowed to get out of control only by the fault of EA and DICE themselves based on their inflammatory comments they directed at the fan base itself.
Okay, the people that play Call of Duty, man, they've really done... Activision has really done their research. I thought that this year maybe some Call of Duty people would come over to Battlefield 5 because they realized they're getting less for more. But no, all they had to do was double the amount of zombie modes and add Battle Royale, even though they probably fucked up development really hard and they're scrambling. They had to pull out single player. And this was the year that I thought Battlefield 5 would probably crush Call of Duty. But it's not happening. They know their audience. Call of Duty people don't come over to Battlefield 5.
Yeah, could you repeat that real quick? I didn't quite catch that.
They know their audience.
All right, could you replay that just one last time? I want to be absolutely sure I heard that correctly.
They know their audience. Call of Duty people don't come over to Battlefield 5.
What the hell are you talking about? Call of Duty's been in a sales decline ever since Black Ops 2, specifically because Activision does not, quote, know their audience. The reason people aren't coming over to Battlefield 5 is because they don't find the game appealing. It's literally the only other AAA first-person shooter on the market at that time. Battlefield 1 sold so well in 2016 on console because a lot of Call of Duty players bought that game instead of Infinite Warfare because they didn't like what Call of Duty was doing that year. So there is precedence of this happening, and with a polarizing game like Black Ops 4 that obviously demonstrates that Call of Duty does not, quote, know their audience, the same principle should be in effect if Battlefield 5 is the more appealing game, but we are not seeing that happen.
And with all these games coming out, these 3 plus those other major releases, plus I'm not even counting indie releases, people can't buy that many games per month.
Really? Is this what it's come to? You're going to blame indie games for why Battlefield 5's pre-order numbers are low. That is just all I need to know at this point.
You're thinking the average, student, whether they're in high school or college, has maybe $60. Maybe 2 games in a month, maybe if you're working really hard and you're doing other things. So what's that going to be? $60? That's going to be Red Dead Redemption. At least if I only bought 1 game, it's going to be Red Dead Redemption 2. All right. So, and I'm thinking that combined. So you've got those reasons. Is it because of, the social justice warrior agenda? They're trying to put women in our games and they're trying to make us feel for females and have better representation in games? How dare they? This should be historically accurate, no women. Is that really the reason? No, I'm thinking, that maybe people will. There are people out there that's like, I'm not going to give you $60 of my money until you take those women out. Until you do it more historically accurate in your fictional stories. In the trailers, there's been women, and one of the war stories is going to feature a fictional story of a female resistance fighter. I will not pay you $60 till all that's out. In Battlefield 6, I better see no women. Then I'll give you my money. Do I think there are people like that? Yes, unfortunately, I do. But I don't give a shit.
Sure, there are those type of people out there in the world. Nobody's denying that. I'm certainly not. But the majority of people like myself who have no problem with women being in games have a problem with the reasoning for the decision to include them and then the preceded virtue signaling and insults directed at fans. That is my main issue with Battlefield 5. Once again, you are manipulating the situation to paint the other side as a bunch of sexists who hate women.
We've had World War II before, so when they come back to World War II, I was hoping for an alternate take, and they did one.
Oh, really? You wanted a World War II game that's not authentic to World War II? I think you're probably in the minority on that one. Why even make a World War II game at that point? Why not just go full-blown alternate reality? The whole point of making a World War II game is to experience World War II. The Allies versus the Axis, not black female Nazis versus the British amputee squadron. I seem to remember you addressing this very same issue sometime around November of 2017 with Call of Duty World War II. Does that ring a bell? Anyway, let's just take a look real quick.
There's customization for your guns and soldiers. They even throw historical accuracy right out the fucking window and put women on the actual front lines of battle outside of the French resistance fighters and the British special forces, which, yes, actually happened. There were women in combat, but I don't recall there ever being black female German soldiers as Nazis slaughtering GIs in World War II. Maybe I missed the memo on that. I don't know.
Flush out the enemy. Hardpoint locked down.
But I think the reason is this one looks more like Call of Duty. This Battlefield looks more like Call of Duty than ever before, with these loud, crazy-ass trailers that make it look like Call of Duty set pieces. And the sort of cybernetic arms or robotic arms or whatever. They're doing this crazy customization thing. If you're going to do alternate World War history like that, you could have gone real alternate World War II. And that would have been crazy, like a Nazi invasion of the United States, some, maybe other countries getting involved, or the fight being a lot bigger in Africa or Australia, who knows, or in the Pacific. It could have been crazy, but no, you're going this direction.
So you admit the design decisions in the game were not handled very well by the developers. That is exactly what people have been complaining about this entire time. Joe, I think you're starting to see the light. This is exactly what us woman haters over here are complaining about. Either go full fantasy or give us something authentic. This middle ground between the two does not appeal to people, obviously. I think we could both agree on this, but instead of trying to understand the other side of the argument and why people are not happy with Battlefield 5, you simply analyzed it on a surface level and quickly brushed it off as a bunch of Trump-loving conservatives who despise women in their games. games. A little bit of research would have gone a long way to help you in this situation.
So I think that, do I think there's lost sales over the whole politicized thing, right versus left, and right, being happy that the Swedish developers over there at DICE are eating their words? Yeah, I think a small bit of it, but I think it has to do more of the poorly timed release date. There are other just big boys fighting there for attention. I think that the really lack of marketing, good marketing for Battlefield 5 has really hurt it. And I think the general ill will towards EA, people are so sick of EA shit right now.
You mean like calling your customers uneducated for daring to voice their complaints on a game that EA wants them to spend money on? That sounds like it'd fit pretty well.
Especially coming off of Star Wars Battlefront 2. This is their major shooter coming off of that controversy. I think that has more to do with people, people are trying to lead you astray and drama whore and say, this is why you should feel good. It's more, fuck EA. And those people are like, fuck EA. It's not fuck EA because women and because social justice warriors. Fuck EA because they tried to fuck me over. That's what I think it is.
Alright, so I'm going to repeat myself for the last time on this. This is not about women being in the game. This is about the reason for why they were included in the game and then the corresponding response by DICE and EA. That is the cause of this backlash. It has nothing to do with the gender of a character. It all has to do with how a corporation responded to its customers. That is the main cause for this backlash. It's the reason I made my videos on this topic in the first place, and it is the overwhelming reason I have seen for why people support it in the comments section. So please, it is not about women in video games. It is much deeper than that. Stop downplaying this at every single opportunity. It makes you look like an even bigger dumbass.
But maybe I'm wrong.
You are.
So yeah, a few of you may celebrate this bad news for Battlefield, but I'm certainly not celebrating. I don't like pre-ordering anyway, unless it's like I'm damn sure it's gonna be the damn good game, and I was really close with Battlefield 5.
Care to divulge why you're not damn sure you're ready to pre-order the game?
But
I guess not.
And here's another reason. I don't think that Battlefield 5 has had an open beta yet.
Neither Red Dead Redemption 2 or Call of Duty Black Ops 4 have had an open beta on console, but yet their pre-orders are just fine. Call of Duty only had an open beta on PC, and we know the game doesn't sell well on PC. So why is this the case that Battlefield 5, even though it hasn't had an open beta, just like the other two games, why is it not still doing well in pre-orders?
I could be wrong. I know I've played it because I got a key from my business management group. I think those latest ones have been closed alphas. And I think a lot of pre-orders come in when people actually get their hands on it and they play the new modes and they play the new feel of it. And, oh, okay, well, yeah, let me put down a pre-order. So I hate to see this happen because I thought this year the Battlefield 5 franchise would do really well. I don't think it has to do with the fact that this non-controversy of women being included. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong.
You are.
You guys give me your opinion. Do you think it is 100% because there's women in it, or do you think it has to do with more of those other things that we talked about? Let me know, guys, okay? Thank you so much for watching. And if you're celebrating the lower sales on Battlefield, I mean, I can't stop you. It is EA, so it's like you want to celebrate that, but you don't. But me, as a Battlefield fan, it's like, oh, damn it, you guys fucked this up. And so, again, I'm mad at EA again. I just wish whoever replaces Patrick Sutherland guy, I hope he's more, a guy for us, a gamer. Not going to happen. As I said that, not going to happen. But maybe there's a tiny hope that they'll learn from all this. I don't know. We'll see. Leave me your comment, and thank you so much. We'll see you on the next Angry Joe Show. Bye, guys.
Okay, so that was a lot to go through, and this is already a very lengthy video, so I appreciate everybody who's made it this far, and let's go ahead and wrap this up. Do I think Joe is completely wrong in this situation? No, I do not. Do I think he's mostly right? Absolutely not. I can agree with him on the Patrick Soderlund thing leaving being a good thing. The tricky release date of Battlefield 5 will most certainly have some sort of impact on the sales figures, especially among the casual audience, and the marketing surrounding the game has been complete and utter garbage. I can agree with him on that. However, Joe still refuses to give even the slightest acknowledgement to the backlash and controversy surrounding this game having any significant impact on the sales. He tries to label everyone who just so happens to be glad that this game is not selling well as a MAGA hat conservative bringing identity politics into the mix. Joe, it's obvious at this point that you either didn't watch these videos or you're purposely misrepresenting the arguments present in them to further your own point. I don't appreciate when my content is presented and used to paint those who share my opinion as sexist bigots when that honestly could not be any further from the truth. I just fail to understand how you cannot grasp the idea that when a chief executive of a publicly detested multi-billion-dollar corporation like EA of all places in one sentence calls their fans that wanted an authentic World War II shooter uneducated, and then in the next sentence tells them to not buy the game, would not have any impact on the sales of that game. At this point, it has nothing to do with women, but rather for a complete lack of respect for the very people that built you up in the first place and gave you your success. What EA has done is unexcusable. That is why people are mad, and I think you know that. If DICE and EA had handled the situation like Activision did with Call of Duty World War II, including female soldiers, we would not even be here talking about this. Activision announced that they were in the game, they didn't virtue signal, they didn't insult their customers, and they most certainly did not tell people to not buy their game. This entire situation is only on the fault of EA and DICE for not properly responding to the backlash. End of story. But anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. Like I always say, I don't fault anybody for going out and buying Battlefield 5. It's your money and it's your decision how you spend it. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, and I will catch you guys next time.